Okay, check this out. This is a cell phone tower controller. This receives and transmits quite a few cell phone calls all at once, as well as network traffic. This dude's gonna go up to Prudhoe Bay and it's gonna connect several large facilities together with upgraded network stuff over the cell phone frequencies or something. I'm not exactly sure what all goes on inside this thing. I was basically given a pallet full of parts and two 11-inch by 17-inch drawings showing what they wanted it to look like when it's finished, and told me to get after it. That was about a week ago. And I'm going to ship it tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. I am pretty much finished with it right now, except for a few odd and end touch-ups. Probably less than an hour's worth of work left to go. This thing's about 7 feet tall and probably weighs 500 pounds. And behold, the guts of a cell phone tower controller. There is a power supply module at the top of this thing. The brown unit directly below that is a fan to cool off the 4 radios that are stacked here. So radio, 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 radio. These are connections to the 2 of the antennas. I've yet to punch a few holes in the back of the chassis on this side so that the cables will reach around back to where the antenna will be attached to the cell phone tower. Yet another antenna connection. Another louver with a cooling fan unit and 3 more radios. And 2 more antenna connections. Another louver and fan cooling unit. These are the modulators that talk to the radios there and there. So there are 7 of these dudes that receive the modulated radio traffic out of this dude. These guys, I think, turn the radio traffic into Ethernet traffic. Those cables will come over to this gutter and go up and go into one of these holes maybe, and then go to the other side where there's a buttload of additional equipment inside this thing. There is another thing that will be installed in this hole here that the company didn't provide me. They'll install it in Prudhoe Bay in the next day or 2. This is a elaborate Ethernet router and controller and doohickey. And this unit it's an air pump system that dehydrates the air and pressurizes it and sends it through this tube up to this manifold of pressure gauges, which we can flip little valves here and send pressure to the individual antennas out on the cable through their coax cable, and that pressurized dehydrated air is blown into those coax wires to keep them from corroding out there in the elements, and to keep nice clean dry air in the antenna up on the tower. And this little dude is a temperature and humidity monitor that is connected to the internal network of this thing that I assume some engineer can sit on his couch at home and get on the internet and come to this tower and see what the temperature and humidity is inside of it. So that's everything on the outside of this frame. I'm gonna reach forward and grab it, and ta-da! The whole thing's on a big hinge. So I just swung it out of the enclosure over by the door. So now we can see the backside of all that equipment. So up top are a series of circuit breakers, power feed, circuit breaker, and then distribution off the circuit breaker out to some equipment. Another power feed from another circuit source. This source is a UPS. If this dude will, if you will please focus, that says UPS 73010-L1, the line and neutral from the UPS being delivered here. Power this circuit breaker, and circuit breaker then provides power to these two terminals, which is wired to some devices that I'll show you in a moment. Haha. Same thing going on here. This is a circuit breaker panel providing 120 volts to this circuit breaker, distributing it out to these two terminals and this circuit breaker. This circuit breaker is going through powering this thermostat. The output wire here is looping around and coming here and providing power to the giant cooling fan on the bottom of this control panel right there. That $500 fan has his own power supply to him, and his own circuit breaker and thermostat. This circuit breaker feeds wiring down to this outlet in here and this outlet. So just stupid off-the-shelf 120 volt 15 amp and higher amperage 120 volt what is that, no, it says 20 amps on the front of it, big old 20 amp 120 volt connection. Bear with me. There we go. Alright. Flagged up. Saying what it's connected to, which is up here, this top unit up here. Through these massive cables back here. Wired into here. This is a big ass high amperage power supply that converts 120 volts AC through these modules, these plug-in modules. Front here, these power supplies convert 120 volts into negative 48 volts DC, which is the weird voltage that all these radios and equipment in here runs off of. There we go. So there's two power supplies that are wired up in parallel from two different power sources to provide a DC negative 48 volts, about 40 amps of power to the equipment in here. This is a third one, which is not even wired up. It's just a spare. If one of these two fails, I can pull this out and put it in its place and get back in business. And then under this door are 4 circuit breakers, 2 of which are wired up to the 2 power supplies over here, and then the other 2 are not wired up to anything. They're just sitting there as spares, and these are modular and they can pull out and plug into each other's socket. And this is a little control unit. Talks back to the internet and tells how the power supply is doing. This guy and this cable are also powered off that power supply up there. However, this dehydrator is powered straight off the 120 volts. It's this is the dehydrator's power supply. This is the 2 high amperage going up to the DC rectifier is what it's known as. Down here at the bottom, some more equipment will get installed the next day or two up in Prudhoe Bay. This is the wiring from the front I was playing with a second ago. This is a bunch of networking wiring that the engineers up there will deal with themselves. This is some that I installed. They'll undoubtedly install stuff over here as well. make at least one of these connections to this dehydrator so they can talk to it on the internet also. And some additional equipment's going to get installed on this little dude here as well. I've yet to punch a hole in the roof of this thing to provide the conduit connection for the electricians to bring power down to this guy, which is a set of terminals and labels telling the electrician how to wire up. He'll come in with 120 volts from the UPS and 120 volts from his lighting control panel, and 2 grounds as well though. And right there and there. This is a extension cord I've just got wired in here at the moment just for testing everything out. I'll remove this and throw it away here before it ships. Let's get back outside. And it's easy enough to power this guy up to. Bring over Mr. Extension cord. Sorry about this, I need 2 hands for a moment. Okay, Eureka, we're plugged in. Okay, so ground wire here will be, this hole in the floor here has been cut out for the antennas to come into. This will be in a module up on stilts in a marshy area up in Prudhoe Bay, about 20 feet up in the air. The antenna cables will be run under the floor and then brought up through this hole. And this is one of the ground connections. I'm gonna, at the moment this thing is configured to allow the antenna cables to come out on this left hand side. It needs to come out on the right hand side, so I'm gonna, after I finish doing this, I'm gonna punch a hole here and allow the cables to come out the side on this side, so it'd be easier to get over and reach the area where the antennas will come into the enclosure. Okay, back up front here. Okay, I've plugged in power. Nothing is powered up yet. So I can come back up front here, and I've wired electricity up to this dude at the moment, so I'm going to turn him on. And the front of the control panel has now come to life. Things are booting up and starting up. This is the DC power system powering up. Fans are running. Fans are running. This guy's powered up and working. This guy's powered up. And this guy is also powered up. I can pull this little plug loose and have fun with my little dehydrator unit. So that's working just fine. Little pneumatic tubes will attach here, 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 and here for the antennas. And now I can turn this guy on and turn on the cooling fan. So this guy is gonna blow like hell into here, and this closes nicely, like so. And the outer door can close as well, and then exhaust out this vent here on the far side. This guy's so big and heavy I had to chain him to the wall so he wouldn't fall over and kill me. Anyway, thank you, and take it easy. Bye.